In this session of the Customer Experience Masterclass, we're going to talk about how to streamline your workflow so you can get more results out of the team that you have. You might end up in a situation where you're being told by your team that you need more agents. They're saying that they're too busy and they can't handle the workload that they have. But when you look at the financials, you feel like you need more sales to be able to justify hiring more people. But you probably agree with the team that they need help. It puts you in a weird position as a business owner to try to make those decisions to understand if we can hire more people even though revenue doesn't support it. But what we're going to talk through today is how, with a couple tweaks to your agent's workflow, the existing team can handle anywhere from 20 to 30% more volume. And they're also going to be a lot happier because they'll feel like they're more efficient and they'll feel more in control. At HelpFlow, what we do is we run 24/7 live chat and customer service teams for over 100 e-commerce stores, and our workflow and efficiency is a key part of how we're able to drive results, and I'm going to show you the pieces of that today. There's a couple pieces to streamlining your customer service workflow. First thing that we're going to talk about is how to segment tickets as they come in so that you're able to batch your work. Second thing that we're going to talk about is how to really streamline the intake process so you're working on the right tickets at the right time in the right order. The last thing that we're going to talk about is how to streamline your workflow with a series of shortcuts. The first piece of the puzzle is how to segment your ticket types as they come in. By knowing that different tickets need to be handled in different ways and at different times, you can segment your workflow for your team. And so one of the things that you need to do is you need to segment tier 1 and tier 2 situations for different tickets. For example, a simple order tracking question is a simple tier 1 situation. That can be handled very quickly. The workflow for that is very specific, and you can automate some aspects of that as well. A common tier 2 situation might be a warranty request that is past the warranty period. The person is incredibly frustrated and they say that they're going to do a chargeback and leave a negative BBB review. That is a very different type of ticket and should not be handled as a tier 1 situation. That should be escalated and handled. So you want to start by segmenting out different types of scenarios so that you can handle tickets in different ways. Once you've done that, you can drastically streamline your customer service team's workflow by basically batching tickets. And so you can batch tier 1 and tier 2 tickets, obviously, like we said, but what's more powerful is to batch specific types of tier 1 tickets together. So for example, order tracking questions are very fast to be able to handle. But if you handle all of the order tracking questions at the same time or enable you to route those to certain team members, so one team member can work on today's order status questions, another team member can work on return processing, you're able to batch those tickets and get a lot of efficiencies by having the agents crank through those tickets really quickly. So batching tickets is part of what you're going to be able to do when you segment those tickets. The last thing that's important to understand is some tickets will have a clear workflow, whether it's tier 1 or tier 2. They'll have a clear process that you go through, a clear decision-making framework, while other ones will be more subjective. The negative BBB one that I mentioned earlier, there's going to be a lot of details in that need to be considered to determine how to move forward. And so that should be handled very differently than objective process-driven tickets. So segmenting ticket types is going to enable you to work through similar tickets at similar times that require similar mental processing, and that's going to enable your team to be a lot more efficient. The second part of the puzzle to really streamline workflow is to streamline the intake of the actual tickets that are coming in. So remember, we talked about all these ticket types. We talked about tier 1, tier 2, order status, returns, all these different things. If you can automate the classification of those tickets, then that will significantly streamline the workflow because now your team doesn't even need to segment the work. They automatically get segmented on the way in. And so you can do that based on keywords. You can do that based on the source of the ticket. You can do that in a number of different ways, but try to automate as many of the ticket type classifications as possible so it's pre-segmented before your team starts working on it. At that point, you can have views in your help desk to be able to see only certain types of tickets. And so you can see all tier 1 tickets, you could see all order status tickets, you could see all potentially negative review tickets that mention the word BBB or chargeback, or anything along those lines. You can customize the views so that you automatically have those batches of tickets ready to work on. At the end of that, you can automate the routing process so that based on whoever's staffed at any given time, you can automate who's working on certain types of tickets so that, again, you're automating all of that segmentation that we talked about, and you're really teeing your team up for success to be able to handle all of the tickets that they need to handle. And so the name of the game with these two parts of basically segmenting your tickets and streamlining intake is to separate out the noise in tickets, put them in batches of work that needs to be done, and get those to the right people. That way your team logs in and starts processing tickets right away. The last piece of the puzzle is to supercharge your workflow with keyboard shortcuts. This is going to be a little bit nerdy sounding for some people watching, but by learning how to basically do a lot of the customer service workflow without touching the mouse, without having to move around too much, you can drastically improve the speed at which you do these tickets, the speed at which you update things in your help desk, and a range of other aspects of running customer service. So a couple things that can be automated or streamlined with keyboard shortcuts is tickets in your help desk. So within your help desk, you can streamline the process of finding tickets. You can streamline the process of taking a ticket and assigning to yourself and tagging a ticket and putting a note on a ticket and all of those things. So in the help desk, you can streamline that workflow that's happening on the actual ticket by just cranking through them with keyboard shortcuts. And in the resource download for this session of the Masterclass, we have a keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet that's going to walk you through the keyboard shortcuts for Gorgeous and the keyboard shortcuts for Shopify and the other aspects of what I'm including today. So I mentioned Shopify. In your e-commerce platform, regardless of what platform you use, you'll likely have a lot of keyboard shortcuts that you can use to find orders, to change orders, to add notes to orders. And so when you're in the actual e-commerce system, you can get around in that system as well using keyboard shortcuts. The last piece of the puzzle is the web browser. So getting back and forth between the help desk and the e-commerce system can be accomplished with the web browser tools, the web browser shortcuts. So you can move between tabs, you can open new tabs, you can get to the address bar to type in an address really quickly, you can get to Google to do a search, you can find information directly on that page. Any text on that page, you can press Control F and find it very quickly. And so what you're doing in this case is you're working very efficiently in the help desk and in the e-commerce platform, and then you're working between those tools really efficiently. Again, I know this might sound overboard when you're watching it in a masterclass, but if you force yourself to learn a couple keyboard shortcuts for the most common things that you and your team do in your help desk, it's going to significantly streamline your results and enable you to process things faster. As far as next steps, I want to help you be able to get more results out of your team. And to put this in context, if each of your team members saves 20% of their time, that's going to be an hour and a half per day per full-time agent. Let's say you have 5 agents on your team. That is almost an entirely new agent added back into the team at no cost. It's 7.5 hours of saved productivity. So by getting this type of stuff in place in your customer service team, you can drive a lot of efficiencies and enable you to get more results out of the current team without having to hire more agents. And so the next steps that you need to get in place is, number 1, segment the tickets, split them up into tier 1, tier 2, and the most common types of ticket types. Number 2 is set up your infrastructure to be able to streamline the intake of tickets, to be able to have views of different types of tickets. That way your team has what they need to see what they need to work on at any given time. And the last thing is train your team on keyboard shortcuts. They don't need to use a ton of keyboard shortcuts right out of the gate, but you can use the resource that we're providing, the customer service keyboard shortcuts cheat sheet, to know the most impactful keyboard shortcuts for your workflow so that your team can use those. Implement these things in your business and you'll be able to handle a lot more customer service workflow with the existing team that you have. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're happy to help. Otherwise, I hope your team is able to be more efficient with these workflow shortcuts.